This week, the annual pro-life rally took place in Washington, D.C. It's probably the most important event in the world in the fight against abortion, not only because of the number of people it gathers, but also because of the symbolic place where they make. The march ends in front of the U.S. Capitol. The weather this year has not favored the attendance. It was extremely cold, snowy. The situation was really complicated. Less people went than other years. Even so, more than 50,000 people have gathered. It is a proof, a concrete manifestation of the effort that is being made in this country in favor of life and against abortion. It is true that there are states such as Texas, for example, where abortion is partially suspended, with some exceptions very few. But it is also true that there are others that have introduced abortion in their constitutions, considering it right. The fight in the United States is fierce, but the defenders of life did not give up. A recent survey stated that 66% of Americans want abortion to be reduced to the first 3 months of the fetus's life, and more than 80% want more financial support for pro-life centers for the care of pregnant women. 2/3 are also in favor of the right of conscience, of conscientious objection by doctors and health professionals. All positive data, I insist, without forgetting the negative data that still exists. The United States is not the only country where abortion is a source of controversy, of confrontation with success and defense for the defenders of life. But one of the recent success has been in Peru, where its Congress has passed a law by which the unborn children from the moment of conception is already considered a human being, subject to all the rights of other human beings, and considered as someone independent of the mother, even though the mother is the carrying woman, the one who carries the child for 9 months inside her. This is an important success, but I insist there are advances, there are victories, and there are also many defeats. Also, a few days ago, last week, some data on the extent of abortion in the world became known. In 2022, 72 million people died because of abortion. 72 million human beings. That represents more than 50% of the deaths of human beings in the world. It is estimated that there were in 2022, with COVID and with everything you want, 140 million deaths of human beings. Of those, 140,72 were due to abortion. And that does not include those who die because of abortion pill, the so-called morning after pill that it is taken to prevent pregnancy if it has occurred. The number of deaths from cancer, including deaths linked to tobacco, was 16 million. The number of deaths from AIDS was 2 million. 72 million died from abortion. The world is shocked by the executing of a murder in Alabama, the legal execution. I am against the death penalty. I think it's something that should be eliminated, but the world is hypocritically shocked by the execution of a murder, and it is not shocked by the execution of 72 million innocent human beings. This is absolutely hypocrisy. It is that adding up all the causes of death in the world, traffic, accidents, suicides, diseases, terrible wars, it is less than the deaths caused by abortion. What is the church doing in the face of this butchery of human beings? It must be said that, starting with the Pope, the Catholic Church is against abortion. It is true that there are exceptions, cardinals, bishops, theologians, priests, who justify abortion in some cases, perhaps without realizing that this is a strategy used by the abortionists to open the door a little. And since the door is already open, the question is then to widen the opening little by little. It must be said that the Church is against abortion from the Pope on, starting with the Pope, and it has always been like that. But this, which is true, hides another very important part of the truth, because the basic question, the essential question, is not how many abortions there are, or what business is behind abortion. For example, the sale of the fragments of that little murdered body, especially when the abortion is performed by the decapitation technique. The baby's head comes out and the liver is stopped at that moment. The baby is killed with an awl, then, already dead, is taken out and cut up as if were a cow to be sold for transplants. This is horrifying. This is scary out, and it is the big business of many of the abortion multinationals. All this is true, horrendous. All this, everything, the church rejects it. But why? Why 72 million women have chosen in the year 2022 to kill their children? Most of them, certainly, many of them, live in countries where it is no longer a social scourge, a social stigma to be a single mother, and they live in a country where there are maternity benefits. So why this carnage provoked in these most cases, at least, with the consent and the desire of the mother? Why? I am sure that the vast majority of these mothers would have preferred not to abort their children, for sure, and yet they have decided to do so. Why? Until we answer this question, we will not get the root of the problem. From my point of view, the answer is only one: for convenience. The human being that comes when it is not wanted, it seemed as a problem, whether it is a baby that is going to be born in the bosom of a constituted family, or one that is not, whether it is the first one or whether it already has another semblance, and whether it comes healthy or sick. When the child is unwanted, it is a problem, and as society has educated us to solve problems by eliminating them at any price. When the human being that comes along presents a problem, what we have to do is to put an end to that problem, even at the price of killing an innocent person, who is also one of your children. This is very hard, but it is the pure reality. In front of the problem, we have not been educated to face them, to fight, to solve them. We have been educated to eliminate them by fleeing, including the terrible moment of the death of another person who is considered a problem, even if that person is your own child. And that is where the church has a very serious responsibility. Jesus Christ taught us that whoever wanted to be his disciple had to carry his own cross every day. He taught us that we must try to avoid suffering. He did it by healing the sick, for example. But that could not be done at any price. He taught us that the law that must govern our life is that of love, but love in imitation of Him who died on a cross, not to love of surrendering to instinct, because that is not Christian love, and I doubt that it can be a considered love, although some give it that name. Jesus Christ has taught us to fight and to rise and fall. He has assured us of His strength. He has assured us of His grace. He has taught us to strengthen our wavering knees. What is the church doing today? For example, the great debate that we have been having for several years within that has had one of its schisms now with the recent declaration of fiducia supplicans. The great basic debate is to suppress the concept of sin and sexual relations outside marriage of any kind, homosexual or heterosexual. To suppress the concept of sin, that is, to eliminate the already fragile and lukewarm barrier the conscience offers. To surrender completely to instinct. Everything that your body asks you is good and it is not sin. And your body asks you, if you feel so, you have the right to do it without your conscience bothering you. This is one of the more steps in the destruction of the human being. As someone capable of fighting, do not convert. You do not have to convert. Why preach conversion? What you have to do is to suppress the concept of sin, so you don't have to repent of anything. You don't have to struggle. You don't have to strive. You don't have to get up every time you fall. The church, in this demoralization in which she has been involved for years, is making men weaker and weaker, more and more given over to the dominion of his passions, to the rule of his senses. This fragile man is not only unable to cope with sins against the sixth commandment, but when other problems arrive among them, the fruit of a sexual action, sometimes even many times contrary to the sixth commandment, when these problems arrive, that is, a child that comes unwanted without being wanted, and that it is a problem, that weak man, the fragile man, subjected to passion, subjected to his instincts, that man decides, or that woman decides, the only way, which is death, to kill him, to kill even the innocent, to kill even the offspring. A church that no longer teaches the value of effort, that no longer teaches the value of sacrifice, that no longer teaches that it is indeed necessary to try to solve problems. If you have a disease, you have to try to cure yourself, but not at any price, and certainly not at the price of committing an injustice. The greatest of injustice, such as killing a person who is not to blame for anything. A church that does not teach the value of effort and the value of sacrifice, a church that does not teach the value of conversion, a church that does not teach that to follow Jesus is the weight of love. You have to carry your daily cross. A church that does not teach this, even if it is theoretical, against abortion, in reality is destroying the capacity of the human being to face problems. It is as if a person's organism and bacterium enters that it is deadly, bacterium that can kill him, and nothing is done, to favor the bacterium, but something is done to kill the white blood cells, which is the natural defense of the organism against the bacterium. You are not favoring the bacterium. You are not supporting abortion, but you are killing the white blood cells that can kill the bacteria. You are destroying the ability of the human being to fight, to strive, to sacrifice, to not give into what it's caused simply because it costs. We are not going to collaborate in this fight in favor of life until we begin to preach the message of Jesus Christ in its entirety. Whoever wants to be my disciple, let him carry his daily cross and follow me. And meanwhile, as long as we are protecting the weak men, the lazy men, the men and women, as long as we are promoting this, as long as we are saying this, that whatever you like, whatever your body asks you to do, you can do it because it is not a sin. We still be being accomplices, even the indirectly, of the greatest butchery of men beings that has ever taken place in history. Let us not forget it.